Hi. So it's Alice.
It's
Alice.
yeah, Elise.
Alice. All right.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how to read it. So I'm going to do a short presentation. Welcome to the 2020 Doc Aviv Film Festival. We are pleased to have Alice Steinberg, the director of The Fight, with us today. I'm going to switch to Hebrew for a second. ברוכים הבאים לדוק אביב, 2020, איתנו נמצאת הבמאית של הסרט המאבק, The Fight, אליס שטיינברג. אני, תומר מיכלזון, העורך של המקום הכי חם בגיהנום, שהקרנה הזאת היא בשיתוף פעולה איתנו. Yeah, and we're gonna, back to English. So we're gonna start off with some questions for us. So first of all, congrats on the film. I watched it, I just watched it yesterday and it's fascinating. I think my first notion of the film, I mean, it was presented in Sundance, right?
Yes.
Last Sundance. And my first impression of the film, you know, I'm a journalist and I'm chief editing a website in Israel. It's called The Hottest Place in Hell. And we deal a lot with those issues that are presented in this film. Immigration and LGBT rights and all this kind of civil rights in general. So I deal with it every day on the journalistic aspect. And I was really amazed that you take something which is so up to date, something that happened 2-3 years ago. The film, if you haven't watched it yet, starts with Trump inauguration, and it starts with the Muslim ban, right?
Yes.
Banning from Muslim immigrants from the Middle East to get into the United States. That was one of the first decisions of Trump administration in 2016. So you start off with that, but it's still all the themes in the movie. I mean, are quite fresh. They're still. I mean, some of them are still taking place. So I thought, you know, when we cover those kind of stories in the news, okay, so we roll on with the story, but you do it as a documentarist. And it was kind of, how challenging it was to deal with something which is still very much taking place?
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, weren't you afraid that, you know, the news cycle of Trump administration might, I don't know, overshadow those stories?
You know, I think we always felt that our film would be relevant if it came out now. We knew
Right.
that going into an election season when people are, and Trump is still in office and people are looking and thinking about the stakes heading into an election, that our film, I mean, I think, you know, if Trump is out, then I don't think our film, I think it had to come out now, and we wanted to give ourselves the full, 3 years of working on the film so that we could have these big cases have a sort of beginning, middle, and end. But it felt like the issues could still be relevant. And I think ultimately one of the themes of the film is about how it just takes, a little guy, a David, just an everyman to make a difference. These are everyday heroes. These aren't people. These are just regular people fighting the good fight to uphold our democracy. And I think one of the things that you see playing out right now with protesters on the street is that it doesn't take much to make a difference. I think that idea was something we wanted to get across. That's one of the reasons we made the films. We wanted to make a film about heroes.
Yeah. So how did you really came up with the idea of the movie? I mean, you started filming it 3 years ago, you said?
Yes, we started filming soon after Trump's inauguration, and actually filmed after he was elected. So I think, the story of how the film came to be was that, it was 7 days after Trump was inaugurated that he enacted his Muslim ban.
Yeah.
And on that night, all the protesters were gathering at the, airports, and some were gathering at the Brooklyn courthouse. And I joined the protesters on the Brooklyn courthouse. And when ACLU attorney Lee Galern emerged from the Brooklyn courthouse, having won the stay to stop the Muslim ban, I was actually just steps away from Lee, the lawyer. And I thought to myself, okay, this is the film I want to make. I want to follow Lee and the lawyers at the ACLU for the next 3 years in their battle against the Trump administration. I felt like this was going to be one of those big, epic legal fights for civil liberties of my lifetime. And as a documentarian, I just felt like I have to follow it.
It's interesting because your last movie is Winner, right? On Anthony Winner, which I also watched. It's also a terrific movie, which I really liked it. And well, Anthony Weiner, it's more, I mean, it takes place in the political sphere. And there is the remark of the lawyer at the end of the film, of the fight. And he's saying, we can't really, I mean, we're dealing with the legal aspect, with the legal fight, but we can't win it all. You have to have the people. I mean, how do you, after doing those two films, I mean, how do you describe the difference between the legal fight and the public political fight? Do you find any resemblances? I mean, what difference do you find between those two spheres, which, I mean, sometimes they...
I think one of the things that I feel like I've learned with the film, and that we wanted to highlight, the film begins with protesters taking to the street, and you see protesters during the fight for family separation. And then you have at the end, Dale, the lawyer at the ACLU, saying, change isn't going to happen just with lawyers and courts. It has to be people that turn the ship around. And I think that what we see time and time again in American history is that what happens on the street goes into the courtroom. Like, that changes laws. And so
the opposite way around also. Sometimes.
Yes, sometimes. Yes, they work together. You can't have just the courts. You need the people to change the public opinion, and the courts need the people. So.
But in terms of cinematic view, I mean, I guess it's more challenging to focus and follow, lawyers. I mean, and the legal aspect, which can be sometimes a bit, I don't know, dry. I mean, how do you deal with that?
I mean, that was a challenge. I think going in, we were like, my co-directors and editors like, oh, lawyers,
All right.
So it was a challenge, and it was like being able to sort of like quickly, and creatively get the information across about what the story is, because you have to understand these cases, and census case is not an easy case to understand, but then ground it in the lawyers, in the human story, and that's like that. It's about the lawyers and their fight and their personal struggles, and and watching their journey, having it be more of this legal thriller, and but you have to balance it with getting information, and and I think that was definitely a part of a challenge of the film.
Mm-hmm. How did you, which leads to my next question, you focus in the film about, you choose 4 stories, right? 4 cases. I'll just go quickly over them. So the first one is about Lee Gallant, which is battling Trump family separation policy. You have Brigitte Amiri, the deputy director of the ACLU, which is taking the case of a teenager from Central America who is been barred from receiving an abortion in Texas, right?
Yep.
You have Chase Strangio and Joshua Block, who are challenging Trump attempt to ban transgender people from serving in the military. And you have Dale Ho, who is trying to remove the citizenship question on the upcoming US Census. I mean, how did you choose those 4 stories? The ACLU is dealing with tons of cases every year. Why did you choose to focus on those 4 cases?
So when we began filming, our first person, we went where the fight was. So our first person that we filmed with was Lee. He was arguing with a Muslim ban, and then his case turned into family separation. And then, you know, we had our cameras in downtown Manhattan waiting to see what's the next case going to be. And I think it was actually, you know, I think then it was, I think I was with Lee when my phone rang, and it was that Trump tweeted that he was going to kick out transgender people in the military. And I was like, okay, this is a big civil rights case. Who's doing it? And then they're like, down the hall. So I went down the hall and I was like, barged in. I was like, okay, you're next. Like, film with me. And then literally just kept on doing that. Like, to bridge, I was with Dale, I was with Josh and Chase on a train. And they were like, I don't know if you know, but Bridget has this case. It's big.
Yes.
Girl from
abortion.
I've never had anything like this before. And I went to Bridget. And so I just kept on doing that. And we followed, the cases that are in this film are the biggest civil rights cases that were fought against the Trump administration for the last 4 years. These are it. Like, these are the ones that were, and so that, you know, that's why they're there.
Yeah, but you also, I mean, beside of the legal cases, I mean, you also get really into the attorney's life. You know, we meet on the train, and you see one of them preparing for his appearance at the Supreme Court. What did you learn about? I mean, what did you learn about their profession, about their life, about their challenges? I mean, what do you think about lawyers now? I would say about civil.
Well, I mean, I you know, these guys. I love these guys. Like, totally. I went to make this film because I wanted to spend time with people that inspired me. Like, I totally did that for this film. I wanted to spend, you know, you decide to spend 3 years with people and subjects. I was like, I want to spend time with people that I come away feeling better. And I think part of the motivation of making this film was sharing that with everybody else. And I think, you know, I was glad and grateful that these guys, and I think one of the things, that they're not your regular lawyers. They're not your books, brother, fancy corporate lawyers. I mean, these guys are quirky and funny, and, you know, they have they're an incredible cast of exciting people that you want to be with. And that's a huge part of like wanting to spend the time and make the film.
Yeah, you mentioned in one of the interviews you did that it's the most important. You mentioned that it's the most important film that you've made.
Definitely, yes.
I didn't read the interview, so can you tell me why? I just saw the headline.
I think it is your name. Oh, really? I didn't know. I think that this is one of the most important films I've ever made. I think, you know, the stakes right now in our world, in our country, and hoping that this film can galvanize people and inspire people to take action, to take part. It just, you know, I know it sounds kind of cheesy. You know, Dale Ho has the line about a civil rights lawyer. Well, if I'm not going to be a civil rights lawyer now, then when? I think I had this kind of, I'm not going to be a documentarian now, like filming like this moment. Like, there are a lot of other films that we could have made that were, you know, not dealing with the moment of the political moment, the hard moment. But I was like, if I'm going to be a documentarian now, this is the film I have to make. That, like, it was a duty, it was a calling. It's like, just, these are important times, and I wanted to make an important film.
What is the responses you get so far for the film?
It's been great. I mean, it's fantastic. Like, we've gotten.
Tell me something like interesting response that you got that surprised you, for example.
Well, I mean, not really. Well, the cool one funny thing was, like, at Sundance, you know, we had the lawyers, and then we had our producers, this famous actress, Kerry Washington. And so we were walking down, you know, the fancy Sundance with the lawyers and with Kerry. And then you had these like mobs of people being like, Kerry. And so you'd have like, hi, Kerry. And then they would see our lawyers and be like, Dale, oh my God. And it was just sort of like our lawyers like were like rock stars. And that was just, it was really fun. Yeah.
All right. And what other reactions did you get? I mean, people, I mean, got motivated. I mean,
I think there was, you know, I think there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of laughter at our film, you know, when we were, and then there was a lot of tears at the end. You know, I think we've been very happy with the way the critics have sort of understood our film and the response, and recognizing, you know, I think that especially now, like I think, you know, our film came out in July, and realizing just where our country is at and where the stakes are, and our film feels, you know, almost more important than ever.
Are you more optimistic after making this film?
I think it did fulfill my, you know, one of the reasons making this film was like, I had always been aware of the ACLU. My mother had been a litigator who fought for immigrant rights. I'm always like, who are these guys? Who are these people? Like, and I got to spend time with them, and they turned out to be as cool, as fun, as interesting, as inspiring as I had hoped. Like, they make you feel better. And sometimes, you know, you look for people in your life who can kind of lift you up. And, you know, I don't want to be a lawyer. It's not like, I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to switch. I don't think people, but it was cool to be around people that are just like, they are motivated. They are good people. My friend saw it and she's like, just like, it makes me feel hopeful that there are good people out there.
Yes.
It's like, there's a lot of bad people or like negativity coming your way. And so it's nice to spend time with people that are really good people, and you know, and there are good people out there doing incredible things.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that the timing of the movie was intentional. I mean, you wanted to be screened just before 2020 election. So do you feel there's any like what's the effect of those fights on the public, you know, opinion at the end, you know, after 3-4 years of Trump administration? What do you think is the outcome of those fights in terms of how Trump's administration has been perceived in the public?
You know, I think one of the things,
trying really to, I mean, coming from Israel, I mean, I remember being in a rally 2-3 months ago in Tel Aviv, and there was this lawyer, not from ACLU, but from someone from some, not from some kind of similar organization here in Israel. And she was talking about something that they're going to do in the Supreme Court and everything. And she was great. I mean, but then I felt like at the end of the day, if we just count on those legal actions, and there's no, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have, I mean, and those lawyers, and one of the lawyers in the film says it, I mean, you have to have the public support and the people behind you. I mean, because just acting in the legal sphere is not enough. So do you think there's any outcome or positive consequences of those legal cases at the end?
I think that there have been, you know, these guys have had wins, very surprising, unprecedented wins. And that has continued. Chase Strangio had a case before the Supreme Court about discrimination against LGBT folks. And I think there was this thought that they would lose, and they won. And so you are having the courts in some places are stopping some of these attacks on civil liberties and civil rights. And so I think one of the takeaways from this is that you see that you know, that the system, you know, you need people to be out there. And I think that Chase would tell you how much the people protesting in the streets mattered. Public opinion matters for judges, but the courts can stand when the people aren't. So I think that I think you see that play out in the film, and I think people will get if you don't know about what class action legal fights look like and how they play out within our culture, you get that firsthand look.
Yeah. And also there's, I mean, there is a part in the film in that they get a lot of criticism, they get a lot of hate speech, kind of lawyers. I mean, how did you, I mean, is it something which is really, I don't know, strong in their work? I mean, does it bother them to get all this kind of assaults and letters and those kind of
you know, I think that
read, like, there's this scene that they get like those comments and emails and you know, all these kind of attacks regarding their fights, right?
Yes. I mean, when you put yourself out there in political fights, you can make yourself a target. And I think some of these lawyers have been targeted. I don't think it's, and I think if you're standing up for people, I mean, they would say who, you know, immigrants, LGBT folks, you know, people who are vulnerable, Black people, you know, you are putting yourself as a target in this country. Yeah. And
because in a lot of countries, those kind of civil rights organizations, I can tell you from Israel, and I mean, they are highly targeted in the last few years, criticized and being chased. So I don't know with the ACLU. I mean,
I think they do. I mean, they get targeted. I think, you know, just from the film itself, Chase Strangio, the transgender lawyer, he gets the most sort of attacks. I think being trans, being vocal on social media. I mean, his counterpart, Josh Block, who's cis, he describes, like, it's just so different what he gets versus it's scary what happens to Chase. And he's, it's a very real part of his experience. I don't think all the lawyers it's the same, but I know that Chase really experienced a lot of hate.
Another interesting part in the movie is the case of Charlottesville, when the ACLU decides to defend the right of the white supremacists to groups to march there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's an interesting part, because I mean, doing those kind of films about some organization, for example, like the ACLU, I mean, as a documentarist, I mean, you probably ask yourself, when am I crossing the line not to turn into a kind of a promo film for the ACLU? What was that, the part that it was kind of conflictual part. How did you deal with it? Like, obviously you mentioned that you appreciate their work a lot, and you follow them really intensively. How do you remain a sense of criticism, or, I don't know, an outside look on their work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was very crucial for us that we showed some of their, you know, nuances and complexities, and the events of Charlottesville really highlighted that. I think we had to showcase, you know, we had to showcase the debate that ensued at the ACLU. There were people that are, you know, First Amendment absolutists, and there are people that feel like, you know, now is not the time for the ACLU to take up the case against a white supremacist. When you have somebody was in the office who's already espousing white supremacist viewpoints, and it was a painful time. And I think that at the ACLU, and it was crucial that as documentarians we were there when it happened, and to sort of showcase that debate. And I think that I do think it's as to show that it was, this is a full film, and we are documentarians. We are going to show the warts and all, and some of the principles and some of the conflicts and the controversies we weren't going to shy away from.
Yeah. I mean, and how did it affect, your making this film? Do you get any, do you have any thoughts about your next, how did it affect the next project you want to do? In terms of, did it give you any inspiration, or make you think about doing other films in the future? How did it affect your aspiration to do those kind of films?
I don't know. I think one of the things that happens, and I'm sure it's everybody does that, like, you come away with a film like this and you want to do something different. You're just like, I've done this film, and so I'm excited to try something, something different in subject matter and content, like emotionally, or you just like creatively, or one of the things that I love about being a documentarian is that you get to spend time with different subjects and different people. And I think one of the things that we all are just like, whatever it is, it's going to be very different than this. Same style, same approach, but I think the subject matter will be different. I don't know what it is, but I know I'm not going to make another legal thriller job. I'm done. I did it.
Right. Because you can make like the fight the sequel. There's so many stories.
Yeah, that's kind of not our style. Or
by the way,
yeah,
the film. You go through 4 different stories. What is the story? I know it's not a fair question to ask, but what is the story that appealed to you the most, that you felt most connected to?
Oh, that's a hard question.
I would imagine, if I can guess, I would say the case of Brigitte, the teenager girl that represents the. I don't know.
I think that
there seems to be a lot of emotion toward this story.
I feel like you can't separate all of them. Initially there was a thought of kind of like, could we just do one? And it felt incomplete. It felt like it's the fight of fighting the Trump administration isn't just about abortion rights. It isn't just about immigration rights. It isn't just about, the fight is more, and it was more.
More stories. It was
more. It was not enough, but it was more. And I don't feel like I need them all. To me, it's all of them. I don't feel like one.
What was the challenges in terms of editing the movie, the film, and combining all those 4 stories? Because even watching it, it's done very well, but you have to follow. How did you find a connection between all the stories and making it a whole movie?
I think that was one of, there are a few editing challenges, and definitely one of them was trying to figure out a way, you can track the story, so but that you're giving enough time to each one and that you don't lose it, but how you weave it in. I think, one of the things that became clear, there was this thought of like, okay, we just tell Bridget's story, it'll end. And then we'll tell Dale's story and it'll end. And it's like, you can't have 4 endings of a movie. Yeah. So I think the culmination scenes where they're all sort of, doing their oral arguments at the same time, or doing their moot prep at the same time, were critical for us.
Right. All right. I think we have to finish soon.
Great.
So, I understood you have to leave at 7:30, so I'm going to give you before, unless you want to add anything else to the people watching your movie in Tel Aviv.
No, I'm grateful that people in Tel Aviv, and my sister's in Jerusalem. So I'm very excited.
You have family in Israel. I didn't know.
Yeah, I do.
All right.
So I'm grateful for you guys for showing the film, for talking, for caring, for watching.
Yeah, by the way, it's very interesting time to show this kind of movie in Israel now, because you're probably, I mean, if you follow the news in Jerusalem, there's like huge demonstrations all around this summer, and there's against the corruption of the government, and against the government, and there's a lot of civil rights advocacy in recent months.
Yeah, it's in the air.
Especially since the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean,
yeah,
which raises a lot of civil rights questions all around the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very relevant to our time.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.